Okay, let's play some City of Heroes together with this new mic lapel. You can hear me better. And I will be playing Mark Belling at the same time. So when I'm not talking, you'll still be entertained.
The Mark Belling Podcast is presented by Uline. For quality shipping and industrial supplies, Uline has everything in stock. Visit uline.com. The Mark Belling Podcast is a production of iHeartRadio Podcasts.
We have a lot to talk about today, so let's get right into it. Milwaukee County Circuit Judge Hannah Dugan yesterday was given, I'll just call it a walk. She was given a minuscule fine and probation, despite the fact that she committed a felony while in public office of a judge. This is receiving a lot of criticism from my friends on the right, people who think like me. I'm going to give you my take on this on this sentence in a moment here, but I'll tease it pretty strongly. I'm okay with her not getting prison. I'm going to explain why, but there is a but. There's a great big but in my analysis. First, when it comes to shipping, packaging, industrial supplies, and equipment, many suppliers offer endless aisles of product. Uline knows what you can't do with endless aisles of product. Test the quality of each product, ensure everything is in stock and ready to ship the same day.
I don't like time
and have
missions.
a team available
That's why I
24/7 to
decline it
answer your
every
product
time.
questions. Uline
I don't
only
like time
carries
missions.
supplies and equipment they have tested, tried, and often use in their own business. Experience the Uline difference today. Visit uline.com. I'll give the background for people who haven't followed the story closely. Hannah Dugan is a longtime Milwaukee County Circuit Judge. Last year, ICE agents, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, had a warrant. The warrant was for somebody who was a defendant in a separate case in Dugan's court. Obviously, if you're ICE and you're looking for someone and you realize that person is doing court that day, you'd have to be a dunce cap of an ICE agent to not go to the courthouse and say, gee, maybe he'll show up there, which is what they did. They showed up and politely presented themselves to Judge Dugan, who proceeded to give them the total runaround and do everything in her power to allow the guy to evade arrest. She even
One
tried
thing
to get
I
a
don't
fellow
like about
Milwaukee
City
County
of
Circuit
Heroes
judge who had
is the
wanted
audio.
no part of it
I
to be involved in the subterfuge. She sent the agents
it's
off
just
to the chief
it's
judge's
not
office.
needed.
In the meantime, stashed the guy in a separate office. In the end, this is just... I've talked about Trump derangement syndrome, and this is one of the best cases of it. There was no upside for Hannah Dugan in doing this. None. First of all, what did she... Let's imagine it had worked, and she stashed the guy in the office, and they couldn't find him, and she said, okay, he didn't show up for court and scheduled it another day. What did you think to do? ICE is going to give up? But beyond that, they found him anyway. They found him. So she did all this for nothing. Instead, she wrecked her whole career as a judge and turned herself into a felon and accomplished nothing in the process. I always talk about people who don't think things through, people who make emotional decisions. A lot of guys do this with women. I put it from that perspective. I'm sure it's probably even more the other way around. Do women make more stupid decisions with guys, or do guys make more stupid decisions with women? Say, I'm a guy, so I think it seems like I know a lot, but I know it from the perspective of the guys. It's probably 50-50, right?
Depends
You
on the
think
person.
guys make more dumb decisions.
Depends on the person.
I'm thinking, though, now I'm in 2 states. I'm in Florida. Do I see more cases of guys going out with women that are no good for them, or women going out with guys that are no good for them? Close call. Guys have a tendency to wreck their lives by philandering. And I think women wreck their lives by actually hooking up for the long term with a guy. Don't you agree with that?
What is philandering
You think it's
exactly?
changed. Jason's this. Should I just get back to the point? My point is that you make a decision without thinking through any of the ramifications. If Hannah Dugan had taken a deep breath, here's ice, and thought for a moment,
Yeah, this is really easy.
should I cooperate with an arrest warrant? As Dugan's colleague, the judge who refused to go along with this subterfuge, said, it's not the job of judges to allow defendants to escape apprehension. If she sat back and thought about it for a moment, as much as she didn't like the fact that here's ICE, and ICE is, in her mind, Trump, running around in her courtroom, the reality is they had every right to be there. And any law enforcement agency has a right to try to apprehend somebody who's wanted for any type of offense. Everything from murder to, parking warrants. If she would have thought that through, perhaps she would not have done this, but she did it. She was charged. The Trump administration, Department of Justice, made it clear that they were going to stop putting up with this crap. It's bad enough that we have individual citizens defying the laws of our country and defying the will of the electorate. Of all the reasons people voted for Trump, I would say the number one issue he hammered on was that he was A, going to enforce the border, and B, going to kick out the people who came in illegally. But for a judge to do it, and they just had enough, and she was criminally charged. She pleaded not guilty. She had no real defense. She hired this dream team of local lawyers that I hope she didn't pay them a lot. She would have been better off entering a plea deal. Now, the reason she didn't. But she had no defense. She obstructed the war. She sent him off on a wild goose chase and stashed the guy in a thing. She did that. So now she's to be sentenced. I had made a prediction in this case, and I don't always admit when I'm wrong, but I'm going to admit when I'm wrong here, and I've admitted it several times already. The judge in the case is one of the most liberal federal judges in America. You can't even blame Obama or Biden for this.
This is so easy.
Lynn Edelman was a member
Oh
of
my
the
God.
Senate.
I should have got self a long time ago.
And
That was
Republicans in
easy.
Waukesha County and Governor Thompson wanted
Yes,
to get
I
him out
like
of the
it when
state
it's
Senate
easy.
because it was a
I
Democrat. It was a
prefer
Republican
easy
district.
rather than hard.
And this Democrat Edelman, this is like the Hales Corners, the Berlin area. He was
I
representing, and they figured if they name him a federal
gotta
judge,
go
we can
to a
get
group.
Republican
I need
elected to
a I
the
need
seat.
group.
What
I
a
need to
stupid
do a
trade
group
that
so I can get to
was.
all 50 quickly.
What an unbelievable. That's like these trades that the Brewers cut with Boston, where we get two starting pitchers and they get two bad third basemen. So we got a state Senate seat, but lost a federal judge, which has a lifetime appointment. Now, I've called Lynn Edelman Looney Lynn I called him this before he was a judge. When he was in the legislature, voting all lefty in a conservative district, I called him that then. First of all, it has alliteration, and I love alliteration. I just do. Do you like alliteration, or do you not care about that? You don't know if you love it. I love it. I'll do alliteration if it's stupid, just to do it. Looney Lynn. And I made the prediction that he was going to toss the charges because he's a big activist lefty. To his credit, he didn't toss the charges out. He let them go to trial, and then he presided over the trial fairly. And then after Dugan was convicted by the jury, he didn't overturn the verdict. I thought he'd do every one of those things every step of the way, and he didn't do any of them. What he did have the ability, though, to do is hand down a nothing sentence, which is what he did. He gave her like the slightest sentence you could possibly give for a felony, $5,000 fine. No prison time. I said earlier probation. No probation. I'm not particularly troubled by the sentence, and it's been criticized by a lot of people on the right. Edelman said, look, this is somebody who made a spur-of-the-moment mistake. She is not likely to reoffend. Now that she's not a judge anymore, I don't see her being one of these people that's going to run around like they are in Minnesota and try to drive cars into ICE agents. She's not likely to reoffend. She's a 67-year-old woman. She hadn't done anything criminal in her life. She's been a lefty judge, but otherwise a model citizen in the community. And the felony conviction means that she's lost everything. She's not a judge anymore. I don't know that she's been disbarred, but I don't think you can be a lawyer in Wisconsin with a felony conviction. So she's shot. She made an idiotic decision and made a national fool of herself and suffers the consequences of that. Anybody who ever Googles her for the rest of her life will know that this is what she did. Aside from what you think about ICE, judges are supposed to follow the law. So I don't think there's any point in sending her off to federal prison. However, and this is where my buck comes in, I think in order for her to have gotten this sentence,
Let's do this.
Needed, and I know that she didn't plead guilty. There's this term elocution. That's when you plead guilty in a plea bargain. You got to get up and admit you did what you did. Now, she didn't plead guilty. She was found guilty. She did, however, address the court, and she was dancing. She was walking a tightrope here. She had to show at least a level of remorse in order to give Edelman cover to give her the nothing sentence. But she's still not admitting she did anything illegal. She's appealing this. I'll quote from John Diedrich's story in JS Online. By the way, there aren't many good reporters left over there at the newspaper since Dan Bice died. There's like 2 or 3. Diedrich's one of the good ones. I don't even know why I say these things. Why do I praise a reporter at the Journal? Do you think anybody at the Journal is ever going to praise me? Ever, ever, ever? Quoting from Diedrich's story. The former judge said she was trying to do the right thing on the day ICE officers were outside her courtroom. At that time, people were afraid to come to court for fear of encountering immigration agents, she said. Now, let me pause right there. So what? I would think that if you're here illegally, you'd be afraid to go anywhere for fear that immigration agents may be there. And if an immigration agent is able to snatch up somebody when they're hanging around in a courtroom, we voted for that. Trump won, not Kamala. Anyway, next. I have been cast as both a scofflaw and a hero. I am neither. I am just a person who is trying to do my job, Dugan said, at one time getting choked up as she spoke to Edelman. Dugan, 67, did not apologize for her actions, but said she takes the conviction seriously, adding that she came to court with a heavy heart. Because of the case, Dugan said she had to stop her practice of going to community events. She hopes to return to that. I intend to contribute to civic life and return to my focus on service, Dugan said. I will not let those minutes on April 18th define my life. One of Dugan's attorneys, Jason Luzak, said after the sentencing, she has lost so much. The collateral consequences to her were great, and we appreciate that the judge took that into consideration. What did the government say? In court, Executive Assistant U.S. Attorney Richard Froling agreed Dugan has led a life of service and received consequences, but the veteran federal prosecutor noted that she and her legal team have taken no responsibility for her actions. That's my point. Given the fact that she's been given a total walk on this, she could drop her appeal. But she's still out there trying to clear her name, which means she's not taking full accountability for what she did. Nonetheless, while an appeals court made, and this is all going to depend on what panel you get. The appeals court district for our area is the one in Chicago. There's some Republican-appointed judges on there, some Democratic-appointed judges. It's just going to matter what panel that you get. I doubt that this case would be taken up by the U.S. Supreme Court, so the appeals court's going to have the final say on it. I hope they uphold the conviction. But I'm sorry, I just think it's bloodlust to say that we're going to take this 67-year-old woman who's never committed a crime in her life and throw her into federal prison. I doubt that anybody on the left would have the same mercy on, say, me, who's never been convicted of any kind of felony. If I did something stupid to obstruct a cop or something like that, I'm sure that they would lock me up and throw me into a prison with some gangbanger that's going to beat the hell out of me. Let me move on to another story. Trump has changed his tune on Iran. Now, first of all, Trump can change his tune on a given day. It's part of his MO, and this flummoxes people in the media, and it flummoxes people who just, sometimes I think that they've never seen Donald Trump at all in his public career. Of course he talks out of both sides of his mouth. That's been part of his strategy. He tries to be unpredictable. It's one of his strengths as a negotiator, and it's also one of the ways that he is very, very good in dealing with political and governmental and business situations. Nonetheless, this appears to be a significant shift. We have been hearing from Trump for weeks. Iran wants to make a deal. Iran wants to make a deal. Iran wants to make a deal. They really want to make a deal. They really want to make a deal. They really want to make a deal. These are much better people in there now than used to be. Trump yesterday declared the ceasefire over and abandoned all of the rhetoric of the past. We're back to bombing again, and he's calling out the Iranian leadership for what it is. I'm going to read the quote. This is Trump. He said this yesterday in Ankara, Turkey. We hit them very hard last night. That would have been then Tuesday night. Probably hit them again tonight, which we did, which was last night. If we need to, we will hit even more and even deeper. If we have to, we will take out higher level targets. We may take over Karg Island. We may put it back the blockade, and it'll only be a blockade for Iran. They'll never build a nuclear weapon under our deal, but I don't know if we're going to have a deal. We may just have to do it without a deal, because you know what? It's easier. To me, I think it's over. I don't want to deal with them. They're scum. They're sick people. They're led by wicked people. They're vicious, violent people, and if they had a nuclear weapon, they would use it. As far as I'm concerned, it's just a waste of time. Something is wrong with them. They're cuckoo. As far as I'm concerned, it's over. They can talk, but I think it's just a waste of time. They lie, they cheat, they're sick people, that they hurt their own people. They killed 54,000 of their own people. Frankly, I don't want to waste my time with them. Our wonderful negotiators can keep talking if they want. Well, that is clearly a total flip from Trump. And as you know, there's been a divide in the administration. And there's been a divide in the conservative movement. Some have wanted this Iran thing to be over, and they've wanted to try to come to some agreement with Iran, even if it's not much of a one, given that we've inflicted enough damage. Others believe that Iran is just jerking us around and that we've left a whole lot of targets off the table that we could have hit to inflict more damage. And there's no point in trying to work with them on a deal, that the only thing that you can do is inflict pain upon them so that they can't harm others. It sure seems to me that Trump has given up on the notion of negotiating with them and has now taken the other side. However, if you've been following Trump since he got elected in 2016, he can flip this again tomorrow. There was an audience for this speech. The audience was Iran. He's telling them, look, I've bent over backwards here. Iran has more vulnerabilities here than we do. If we take out Karg Island, their economy is shot. There's a downside of that. Price of oil explodes. Karg Island is their dream, and it's right adjacent to the strait. We haven't hit it because obviously it would create tremendous pressure on global oil prices. We could hit it. They're apparently, we haven't hit their government buildings. We haven't hit where the we hit the initial supreme leader, Khomeini, but we haven't done further attacks that hit them where they live and where they govern. We haven't taken out their electric plants, their power plants. We could really mess that country up. Now, there is a third option out there that I've been advancing, which is that we've done enough. And that you simply end this without a negotiation, hoping that Iran understands that we're giving them a break here and They stop arming Hamas and Hezbollah, and they allow the Strait of Hormuz to be open. In any event, that's what Trump said. Then Trump, a follow-up here. Now, on my point that it's pretty clear that while we've hit them a lot, there are vulnerabilities they have that we've so far taken hands off on. And he acknowledges this. We're not attacking at the highest level. The highest level of the bridges, their electric plants, where they make their electricity. Now, let me interject before I get back to Trump. Hitting those things causes great pain for the people of Iran. It may well be that you're not going to get the people of Iran, among them 54,000 already killed, to go out there and try to create an actual revolution. And people say, well, they don't have any guns. You can do it without guns. They didn't have a lot of guns in Cuba. They had some when Che Guevara and Castro overthrew the Batista government. There weren't a lot of guns in which these rebels overthrew the Shah of Iran back in the 1970s. You can overwhelm them and hope that the military and the police, especially the local police who live with these people, decide to side with the people in the street. But you may not do that until their lives are hell. We know what the Iranian people are afraid of. They went out on the streets last time and the Iranians killed them all. To the total silence of American lefties who claim that they care about human rights and genocides. Back to Trump. I don't want to do that. This is referring to taking out the bridges and electricity. I don't want to do that. But if we have to, we'll take them out. We attacked Carg Island last night. We knocked out a piece. I said, don't touch the oil because maybe we'll take over Carg Island. We may take over Carg Island. That's not a thing there's not a thing they can do about it. Normally, I'm not that way, but they really deserve it. Now, he puts that out on the table. As I've said repeatedly, to win a war with Iran means surrender, and the only way you can get surrender is to have a ground war and march all the way to Tehran. There's no way I'm supporting that. But taking Carg Island doesn't require any kind of a ground. It's right there on the wire. It's on the edge. The advantage of Carg Island is it's right where the shipping is. The disadvantage for Iran is that means it's on the edge of the country. You don't have to go more than